I think Washington was stunned when the second largest city in Iraq, a city of 2 million people, fell in a day to a terrorist organization that we had not imagined was in the first order of terrorist organizations.
But these fighters were not new. They had been at war for more than a decade, ever since the American invasion of Iraq. They have used beheadings, suicide bombings, and mass killings to implement a violent plan. A plan designed and carried out by this man, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the founder of ISIS. The secret history of ISIS began at the CIA in the aftermath of 9/11. There was an urgent question about Abu Musab al-Zarqawi.
I was an analyst working on the team that was charged with evaluating whether or not Al-Qaeda and Iraq had conspired together to conduct 9/11 attacks.
At the agency's counterterrorism center, analyst Neda Bakos was tasked with learning everything she could about Zarqawi.
On the team, as an analyst, the big question was whether or not Zarqawi was part of Al-Qaeda at the time.
Behind bars, Zarqawi would undergo a transformation.
In this prison, Al-Jafr prison, they allowed him to share cell block with other radical fighters or people who wanted to launch jihad.
In prison, he really came into his own because he managed to dominate the other prisoners. He managed to establish himself as a leader. He took his religion more and more seriously.
In his quest to become a holy warrior, Zarqawi left Jordan. The CIA tracked him to Kandahar, Afghanistan. Zarqawi hoped to meet Osama bin Laden.
When he does go to Kandahar to try to meet with bin Laden, he's rejected. At this point, Zarqawi is so low on the totem pole as to something that was just beneath him.
Neither Osama bin Laden nor his deputy, Ayman al-Zawahiri, were terribly impressed with him. He seemed and acted like a thug. He was not very sophisticated. In fact, they considered him a rather poor recruit to Al-Qaeda.
Zarqawi moved to a terrorist camp in northern Iraq. It set off alarm bells at the CIA.
If we took Saddam out, Zarqawi was going to cause a lot of problems. He was someone who we would have wanted dead if we had the opportunity and the wherewithal to do it.
And Sam Faddis had a plan to do just that.
I mean, a handful of aircraft tomorrow, with the specificity that we have in their locations, will end this threat and we will finish these guys.
This seemed like the perfect moment. We know where they are, we know what they're up to. This seemed like the right time to target them and to go after them.
The attack plan was fast-tracked from the CIA to the White House. But as America prepared to take out Saddam Hussein, the president was told that hitting Zarqawi could cause a problem.
I remember there were discussions about attacking various camps that we thought bad guys were hanging out in. And I think the one you're referring to, we made a judgment that let's not start the war before we're ready.
When news of the decision reached CIA headquarters, there was frustration.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. We have a prime opportunity to take out a jihadist that we know poses a threat to our allies, in addition to American forces once they invade.
There was nobody on that team who felt like Washington had made the right decision. There's another country getting up, ready to go up in flames. We're giving them time and space. This will turn out very badly. We need to get rid of them right now.
But as Vice President Dick Cheney headed to the CIA, he was preparing to do something else with Zarqawi. Use him to connect bin Laden and Saddam Hussein to make the case for war.
Vice President Cheney came to the CIA asking lots of questions. He wanted to know, not only is there a connection between Saddam Hussein and bin Laden, but we want there to be a connection between the two.
The CIA officers believed there was no evidence of a connection.
No, never. We never found any indication that Zarqawi was in Baghdad working for Saddam or linked up with Saddam.
The vice president and his chief of staff, Scooter Libby, pushed back.
It was pretty intense. We were lined up on one side of the table. Vice President Cheney and Scooter Libby were on the other side, and they walked in with a lot of questions and being very skeptical as to the intelligence that we had been gathering up till that point.
Cheney seemed to want Zarqawi to be the link between Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden.
The Vice President's frustrated. His questions are all about Zarqawi, his connection to Saddam, and whether or not they had discussed 9/11 and if Saddam had participated.
Bakos says the vice president didn't like the answer.
We tried to explain over and over again that it would be impossible for him, logically, to be working with Saddam.
There was no connection between al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein in Iraq that we could find. And Zarqawi's the kind of guy Saddam would kill without a moment's thought.
And the response to that was met with skepticism, lots of questions, and a lot more frustration.
But at the White House, the allegations would not go away. They would appear again as Colin Powell prepared for a speech at the United Nations designed to convince the public to support the war.
Bring to your attention today is the potentially much more sinister nexus between Iraq and the al-Qaeda terrorist network.
When he got to our portion, it went off our script fairly quickly. And we were looking around at each other saying, well, where is he at? Where's he at? We're flipping through pages. And so, right away we could tell that this wasn't reflecting the language that we had used.
Powell used Zarqawi to make the connection between bin Laden and Saddam Hussein.
Iraq today harbors a deadly terrorist network headed by Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, an associate and collaborator of Osama bin Laden and his al-Qaeda lieutenants.
I drew conclusions and language we would not use. So we were very, very, very careful about describing the relationship as we saw it, and it seemed to overinflate and not reflect our analysis.
How did that happen, Nita?
Within the process of how it went, where it went back to the White House and who worked on it after that, I don't know how it was changed or by who.
They had a new leader, Zarqawi's successor, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
He really is a chip off the old block in terms of Zarqawi. He has the same sort of sensibilities, the same flair for publicity, the same obsession with widespread violence.
They are part of a similar ideology. They believe in political Islam. They have a view of the caliphate. Baghdadi had a PhD, he was a soccer player.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's journey from religious scholar to jihadist leader started back in the early days of the American occupation. As the U.S. Army conducted mass sweeps of the Sunni population, Baghdadi was put into an American prison.
For a number of people who'd spent time in these jails, they spoke about them as jihadi training camps. So through being in jail together, people created new networks.
Ordered our military to take targeted action against ISIL.
In the nearly 2 years since Baghdadi's sermon, the Islamic State has come under assault from the Americans, the Iraqis, the Russians, the Iranians, and many others. They have lost territory, but ISIS has already gone global.
Inside the Parliament building, Canada's capital was stunned. Copenhagen, Denmark, a city in terror.
ISIS conducted or inspired
Eastern Egypt tonight.
more than 90 attacks around the world
Multiple attacks have occurred in or around Paris.
and have more than 40 affiliated terror groups in 16 countries.
The attack left at least 14 people dead and 14.
They have promised that the worst is yet to come.
What investigators say was an ISIS suicide bomb attack in Turkey.
Now, Belgian officials say 34 people were killed and 187 were wounded in 2 explosions.
And after today's horror, the question is, how many more terrorists are ready to strike?